Welcome, guys, to the Garage Athlete Show with myself and Daniel Fraser. So
Yo.
we went in last week on nutrition. Seemed to kind of get some good feedback from that. So we've just got another kind of like Q&A episode this week. So we put out a question box within the Facebook group, and we've had a few not so serious questions come through this week. So it's a bit of a change of pace from last week where we went quite in depth, kind of like on a single subject. So how are you, Dan? Is everything good? I know you've recently made a transition into kind of moving more into like online coaching with this latest lockdown. So how are things going business wise?
Okay, man. Just trying to get results with people. Like one thing we're finding, even if you have limited equipment, the buck stops with you. You can still make some pretty sick gains. It all comes down to, do you really want to make a change or not? Like I saw a good tweet earlier. It was people waiting for gyms to open to get in shape are the same people when they're open not in shape. So, if you really want to do it, there's plenty of stuff you can be doing to, get in shape. With a lot of the strength athletes I'm doing, yes, of course, you can't work with your big lifts and you don't have access to the weight, but at the same time, you could be working on your conditioning, improve your body composition. So when you go back in, you are primed to get as strong or as big as possible. So that's what I'm doing with a lot of my powerlifters at the moment, getting them leaned up, improving conditioning, and then when the gyms reopen, ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. Like I've achieved some of my best fat loss results like last year during lockdown, just because we could do things like get people out for walks, just getting their general activity up, and manage their food, and just didn't do anything crazy with it. So obviously the snacks cupboard's like right there. And like when it comes to fat loss, like you don't need a massive amount of equipment. Like getting you into a calorie deficit is relatively easy. When it's the muscle building side, again, it's the same sort of thing for yourself. So at the moment, building a lot of muscles, probably not on the cards, especially for like people that are used to lifting weights. However, if we can get them lean and maintain as much muscle as we can with what we've got, then when the gyms open, they're in that perfect position to start reversing out their diet and start kind of going into a building phase. So a lot of these people that are procrastinating and getting started with a lot of stuff, like there's definitely things you could be doing and making the most out of the time that you kind of have. Whether things will be back to normal by the summer, whether people will be going on their normal summer holidays is yet to be seen with kind of what happens with the rollout of this vaccine, etc. But I'm hoping that I know we've booked a lodge in like August just because we based it on sort of what happened last year in terms of timescale. So like most things were back open by like July, sort of August time. But we've done it in the UK just because I'm not taking the risk of booking flights and them having to be cancelled.
Yeah, no, I get that. We had our holiday cancelled last year, as did thousands of other people.
Again, so did we. We were meant to be going to Spain in May, and it took us 9 months to get our money back from Ryanair.
Bloody hell.
It was so bad. Like
yeah, well, unsurprising, really, isn't it?
We got the money back from the holiday operator. I think it was Jet2 or something we went through, and in like a month. And then 9 months it took to get it back from like Ryanair. We're just like, just book in for something else, and we're like, no.
Yeah, we had that. They tried giving us a voucher or saying you can book it next year, but then we were like, all right, we just want the holiday. So we were like, well, let's book it this time next year. They're like, yeah, it's gone up by £1,000. I'm like, well, I don't want the holiday now.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just didn't make any sense, but no. it took a little while, but we got it back. But yeah, like you say, you had to fight for it. It wasn't, they weren't just going to refund you.
No. Right. So first question. We all know that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, but can you in fact confirm the rumors that he smashed 3 scoops of pre-workout on the Sunday and benched the entire universe? Thanks. That sounds about right. That's what I would do on my rest day after working all week. Although to bench the entire universe, I think you'd need something stronger than pre-workout.
Yeah, probably. What are you saying? God is a natty? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, God ain't natty.
He's on trend.
He created
Was
trend.
it omnipotent? Yeah, well, I guess he did, didn't he? Yeah, he can.
God is trend.
his trend, but his trend like the ultimate sin though, or the no, the ultimate, what do you call it, temptation? Like,
Oh,
is
yeah,
that
that's
what they
true.
would for bro Jesus? It's like, oh, should I take
Trend
it or
hard.
not? I don't know. Like, I don't know where to go with that.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna
cheers,
say,
Ben.
you're not exactly a. I don't know about you, but I'm not exactly like a spiritual person. I don't believe there's a guy up in the sky like watching everything we do. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole in terms of like spirituality today, because that's for a whole different kind of podcast. So just reading the comments, I heard he did strongman and used the planets as atlas stones. Just a rumor though. That'd be quite cool actually. Just
Yeah, I used to love all that Greek mythology stuff. With was it the Titans holding the world up? And then is it Samson with his haircut and all that kind of thing? They loved a bit of strength. Like, it was such a big part of Greek mythology and the statue of David and all that kind of stuff. They're all fucking jacked. So I think they were really into their training back then. Like, I think
well, they used to
physicality
eat like testicles for the testosterone, didn't they? Literally just used to rip raw testicles off things and eat them. Like, that was a delicacy, right?
Oh my god. Amazing.
Going up to just yeah. That's how they
I guess that's where the Olympics came from, right? Like, from Greece, was it?
Yeah. The Greeks did. And a lot of like philosophers and stuff, when it comes like, they believed in training the mind and the body, which is why, as you said, all these like Greek statues and stuff, they're like jacked, because a healthy mind, healthy body, that kind of stuff.
I've got to send you this video I've seen of these. Who is it? They're like, it's like an American campus. My brother said it to me, where they just want to be the hedges guys going. So all they do all day is like curl, and they're like all jacked to like try to get as big as possible. But it's brilliant, because they're saying you can't just be jacked. You need to be jacked. A scholar, a nerd, like a gentleman, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I want to be in that club. Looks amazing.
I want to lift weights and be smart.
It was so funny. Have you ever seen 22 Jump? Have you ever seen 22 Jump Street?
Yeah.
When they're just like training all the time, like, what should we do? Should we work out? Yeah, okay. You got to break right through. And it's like, I think American unis just look hilarious. I think there's a lot of pressure with the work as well, but God, they look like fun. Well, the movies make it look like they're a lot of fun.
Is it $50,000 a semester or something like that? All in?
I think it might be. Oh, it can't be a semester. Maybe a year. Maybe. Jesus.
I mean, a year. Yeah, not a semester. So they end up coming out.
It's insane. Like, to get to college is quite a big deal.
Well, they end up coming out with like a debt that they never pay off. It's something stupid. Like if you're a doctor, you end up in like 500 grand of debt. Jeez. And so even if you're earning like 100,000 a year, like they spend like decades like paying it off.
Yeah, screw that, man. Right, where are we up to?
What's the next one?
Have either of you worked with clients who have suffered with things like sports hernias and varicose veins?
I'm guessing that's varicose veins.
Oh, varicose veins, yeah. And similar issues. If so, how did you adapt the nutrition and training around them, and how difficult was it? Personally, no, I haven't. I haven't worked with anyone with I've seen lots of sports hernias, like loads, like through rugby, like people got them all the time. Basically, loads of core work, loads of rest. And it wasn't until the physio gave you the clear, you were allowed to start loading up, because I think if you rushed it, you would really run into some problems there with, with the way the issue works. But horrible to get diagnosed with that, how they do it. Have you seen how they do it?
No.
To find out if you're the hernia, they literally get their finger and like stick it right up your sort of pubic bone, really get up into you to test if it's a hernia or not.
So is that through like the pelvic floor then, or?
I think so. I'll have to Google it, but like it's horrible, but it's really not nice at all. But personally, no, I haven't worked with anyone like that.
No, and if you think you've got one, go to a specialist. Like that's not within our scope. You'd want to go somebody who specialises in dealing with those sort of injuries. Varicose veins, I think that's a blood pressure issue. Normally, varicose veins are caused by like overswelling in like the calves and stuff. So Look at your electrolyte balance. Are you getting the right amount of sodium, potassium, all that kind of stuff in? And if you're retaining water, it's normally something to do with the level of electrolytes that are kind of going in. But again, go and see your GP about it first, because you don't want it to escalate into something that's more serious than just kind of like capillaries and stuff bursting. Next one's about the podcast. Don, do you think Dan could ever make a good bodybuilder, or would his hairline and dainty calves hold him back? You don't have dainty calves, do you? You've got long calves.
Yeah. No, I've got very slender, girly, rubbish calves. You'll never see me on stage, so it doesn't matter. But hairline, hey, you just shave your head. That's not a problem.
Yeah, calves, of course. Ronnie's got no hair.
Exactly. Of course, calves would hold me back. But then again, if every bodybuilder thought I've got a bad body part, they would never bloody compete, because they're all, it's the same people that say they won't do strongman comps because they're not strong. So we'll just enter it and then see where you're at and then try and get better. So it's the same thing with bodybuilding.
I think you would make a good, I think you could get to a regional, if not a national level in terms of bodybuilding. Conditioning was there. It's only when you get to like the pro ranks where your genetics then become an issue. Like if you train hard, if you diet well, like there's no reason why you couldn't win a regional or a national level competition, just because like you've got the muscle there, and you've got down to sub 10% body fat before. Whether you're in the time of life that you'd be able to do that right now, I probably wouldn't advise it.
No, so it's just not going to happen. I'll get lean again, but I've got no intentions for it. And like we said, you can't help where your lats, and so when we're talking about high lat insertions and stuff like that, you can do the best you can, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's also an argument that some really good, well, you'd probably want to stay natty as well. So there are, I'd say, good bodybuilders that don't have like the greatest genetics. Like they're probably like a 7 out of 10, but they've got a ridiculous work ethic, and they end up with just stronger points, weaker points, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I think, it's one of those things where you can always get to a certain level with hard work, but the people that are like right at the tip top, they are the genetic elite, and they've got a ridiculous work ethic.
Yeah. Cool,
okay. So Tony Maxwell, whilst being on a high protein and high carb diet, how can I maintain the healthy texture and consistency of my poo?
What the fuck?
If you are on a high carb diet, there should be no
Gillian McKeith over here.
Yeah, well, there should be no reason you've got unhealthy stools. Like
basically what you need to look at is a FOD map. There might be certain foods that are irritating you, particularly on high carb diets. Wheats, although you might feel fine, there might be something ticking on with your shit. So have a go. I always sort of say, but the vertical diet's quite a good one for that. What it does is it eliminates all the mostly known allergens and foods that might cause some issues. You strip it right back, start with that, and then build back up. So things like rice, oranges. It's very specific: rice, oranges, cranberry juice, red meat, eggs, full fat yogurt, stuff like that. You basically start with that, and they're kind of known not to irritate people's guts, and then you build up from that. Because like for some people, broccoli can bloat them. Some people, wheat cause all sorts of problems. Is it leaky gut syndrome as well? Can be a thing. So I would look at your food choices and then build back up from there. So have a look at FODMAP. It's all over the internet. You want low FODMAP foods, and then build up from there. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. And then
that's the first talking about shit. I love it.
I end up talking about it quite regularly in my check-ins. When people are really dieting hard, like
rabbit poos. Well, you got nothing going in, is it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I've had that a lot.
You want to read the next one?
Great, let's have a look. When people do a calorie deficit, would buffer some calories for the week and have a big meal on the weekends. That's what I did anyway. Question is, could you do this in surplus? I eat at maintenance Monday to Friday and have a bigger weekend of eating. How would this affect fat strength progression? I think Yeah, I think it's totally doable. I think it probably lends itself better to a calorie surplus than being in a deficit, because I just think it lends itself better. You've kind of written how we just eat, really, as a society. Let me just read the comments as well. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. If you're finding, if you're tracking your weight and it's going steadily up, strength is increasing, and you're eating plenty of protein, then yeah, go for it, I think.
Yeah. So what I said was just to make, because he's not. So I asked obviously if it was just an excuse to eat some like junk food and stuff on the weekend.
Yeah.
Which he said he would basically, he's wanting to have a cheat meal on the weekends, which I've said is fine. But what I would probably do is rearrange your training days to be on the days with higher calories in, so that you're driving those calories into the muscles. And then talking about like peri-workout nutrition. So with a lot of my guys, they have slightly different, depending on what level they're on and how good they are with food, they have slightly different training days and non-training days. So on a non-training day, it's probably like 3 or 4 main meals and then maybe a snack. And then on a training day, you'd have like 2 main meals. You have a pre-workout meal, a post-workout meal, and then an intra-workout like shake. Which, because you've essentially got 6 boluses of food, you're probably going to have more calories coming in. So yeah, if you're wanting to do like higher calories, you try and make it on a training day, and your body's going to shunt those extras like to the muscles that are working to get extra blood flow. And that loads of research on like peri-workout nutrition and why it's beneficial to have some like carbs and fats, carbs and proteins in your system while you're training, because essentially you're delivering it straight to the muscle that's working. Do you need to go?
I might have to, mate. Yeah, I think.
No worries.
You might have heard you might have heard a baby crying.
I could hear one of the babies in the background. I was wondering.
It's sorry, but yeah, probably got to shoot off. But you've
worries.
It,
don't want to get you in trouble. So I will finish up the last 2 questions. I shouldn't kind of be too much longer. But before you go, like, where can the people find you, Mr. Fraser? If they want to come and find out some more of your stuff.
I'm online on Barbells and Beans, mate, and then there Daniel Frazier at Facebook. But I'll check you later. See you later, buddy.
No worries. Bye. Right, I'll finish up. So the next question: if you could invent your own equipment, what would it be and do? Mine is a hench cable which could be stacked to a massive 500 kilos and a pulley at any angle with variable attachments, including harness for pulling. You don't need a cable for that, just use service figure eight. Oh wow. In terms of like designing like gym equipment, like I'm not that into the design side. Like I mostly kind of like use gyms and stuff, so I leave the design side like to somebody else. What I probably would like is some sort of like donkey raise calf machine that's small enough to kind of fit in my garage, just because I find doing calf training on the leg press like is quite cumbersome, and I always feel like my legs are going to snap because I've got to lock my knees within the leg press and kind of just move my ankle. So yeah, something that was easier to train calves in would probably be a must for me. And then the last question is from Simon Randall: Smith machines, completely pointless, or garage gym staples? Probably depends. So for me, I have a Smith machine in my garage gym because I don't have access to a gym at the moment. I'm a bodybuilder. So hitting different movement patterns with different levels of stability will work your muscles in a slightly different way. If you're a power lifter and you just need to be able to do the big 3, there's hundreds of variations of bench, squat, deadlift and stuff that you can do just with a barbell and your rack, and kind of different like settings and stuff. Whereas with bodybuilding, what you're trying to do is put the maximum amount of tension through the muscle through kind of different movement patterns. So the best example that I've got is something like the shoulder press or like a high incline press. So when I'm doing shoulder day, I have a high incline barbell press with the incline set at about 70 degrees, 70 to 80 degrees. I've never really measured it. It's one click back. And that's just nicer kind of on the shoulder girdle. I can load that up with about 60, 65 kilos and it feels okay. I get a decent pump kind of within my shoulders. I'll then move across to the Smith machine and do behind the neck shoulder press, because I'm only moving my elbow joint from here to here so that it stays nice and safe. With it being in the Smith machine, I don't have to think about kind of the movement of keeping the bar behind my head so it doesn't hit my head on the way back up, and I can just focus on, right, drive that elbow up and down like that. And it's a very, very small movement pattern because I'm trying to isolate the anterior deltoid. So it's one of those things where the Smith machine can provide a level of stability in certain exercises through certain planes of motion that a free weight can't. So if you think about a free weight, it moves through all three planes of motion, which means the exercise is quite challenging, and it's quite challenging on the stabilizer muscles as well as the prime movers, whereas the Smith machine can literally move up and down. It can't move left and right, and it can't move forward and backward, which means it's going through one plane of motion, which means you can target the prime mover a lot easier, a lot more specifically, because the the stabilizer muscles aren't getting involved to kind of help stabilize that movement. So you can actually take that muscle to failure and it's quite safe and quite stable. So is it a garage gym staple? Probably not. If you've got the space for it, like, is it nice to have for a bit of variety kind of within there? Yes. Would I have it instead of a squat rack? No. So again, it's one of those things. It depends what you're training for. So if you're training to look good, feel good, you've got limited space, and you don't have the budget to have some sort of multi-gym system in there with a Smith machine in it, like it's not like necessary. If you've got the space, if you can afford it, if you like to have that variety kind of in your training, and you don't have access to, well, you're not kind of using a gym for that kind of stuff, is it nice to have? Yes, it is. There's certain exercises that I probably wouldn't advise doing on it without some coaching, things like squats. So with a squat within a Smith machine, what you have to do is you have to put your feet probably a good 30 centimeters in front of you so that your hips have that space behind you to kind of sink into it. And from first-hand experience, make sure you weight down the back of the Smith machine really, really well, because I think I was squatting 140, 150. I didn't have enough weight on the back, and the whole machine just basically tipped as I was kind of pushing up on it. Nearly gave my missus a heart attack. So yeah, that about covers the questions today. Just a quick one from today. As you probably heard, like, Dan's little ones were kicking off in the background as his missus came and got him away. So we are trying to get some guests on for you guys at the moment to try and mix things up a little bit. If any of you have any suggestions of people that you think would like to come on this podcast, maybe they're people that you've listened to on other podcasts, or you just think you see their content and you think it would work quite well with our own, feel free to drop us a DM. So you can find the Instagram for the podcast, which is the Garage Athlete Show. So if you type it in on Instagram, you can find us there. And you can find myself at DegePT on both Instagram and Facebook. So as always, guys, if you could like, subscribe, leave a review, we really, really appreciate it. And we will be trying to get a guest on for you in the very near future. So yeah, thank you.